Okay. Hello everybody, my name's Hunter and welcome to Poly Guys. This is most likely going to be our first video on this channel, so if so, welcome. And I'm glad to be starting this with you guys. So, this first episode is going to be all about solving linear equations. This is an Algebra 2 topic. And so let's just jump right into it. So, in case you didn't know, an equation is two expressions separated by an equal sign. So, a good example of this, a good simple one, is 6x minus 3 is equal to 21. So this is what we like to call an open sentence, which is an equation which can be proven to be true or false, and the numbers which make the open sentence true are called the solutions of the equation. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to go over the 5 properties that are used in solving these linear equations. The first of which is called the reflexive property. So, I'm sorry, I'm horrible at spelling, that's why I'm really trying to pay attention to this. So the reflexive property states something that should be pretty obvious to everybody, which is that a value A should always be equal to itself. That's it. So, pretty simple. The next one is called the symmetric property. The symmetric property states that the order of equality does not matter. So, the equations A is equal to B and B is equal to A are interchangeable with each other. That's also a pretty simple one. Then next, we have the transitive property. The transitive property is probably the most complicated sounding one, but it's not really complicated once when you get to know it. The transitive property states that two quantities are equal, that when two quantities are equal to the same number, then they are equal to each other. So that probably sounded really confusing when I said it, but let me try to explain it with this. So if A is equal to B and B is equal to C, then A is equal to C. So hopefully that cleared it up a little bit. You can kind of think of it like this. A is equal to B and B is equal to C. And then you can kind of just take out the middleman and you get A is equal to C. So hopefully you understand that. Then the next one that we have, the next property we have is ape. And you may be wondering what that is. It stands for the addition property of equality. So what this states is that if two expressions are equal, adding the same quantity to each side still makes them equal to each other. So let's say we have two expressions, A and B, and they're in an equation like this. If we add another quantity, let's call it C, to both sides, they are still equal. So, as long as you use the same thing, as long as you use the same quantity on each side, they will be equal. Then the next one is very similar. It's called MPE, or the multiplication property of equality, and it's practically the same as the addition property of equality, except with multiplication. And it states that if you multiply two equal expressions by the same quantity, the two expressions are still equal. So if you have two expressions A and B again, then if you multiply by a quantity C, they will still be equal, like so. Okay, so now that you have all of the necessary properties down, let's move into some examples. So let's go back to that first example that I gave you guys. So 6x minus 3 is equal to 21. So the way that you are going to do this is you are going to use the addition property of equality and add 3 to both sides. So now those 3 cancel out because a negative 3 and a positive 3 equals 0. And then you add 3 to the other side of the equation, and you get 24. So now you are left with 6x is equal to 24. And that was the addition property of equality. And then now you're left with 6x is equal to 24. You need to get this 6 away from this x so that we can figure out what x is. And the way that you're going to do that is that you are going to multiply by 1 over 6 on both sides, which is also called dividing by 6. So those 6's cancel out, and then 24 divided by 6 is 4. So 4 would be the solution to this equation up here, and that was the multiplication property of equality. Okay, and now we are going to move on to something a little bit more complicated. So we are going to do one with a little bit more steps. So this one is going to be 5 times negative 2x minus 4 minus 3 times 4x plus 5 is equal to 97. So now I know this looks a little bit intimidating, but believe me, it's not much more than what you've already been doing. So if you want, you can take the moment to pause the video and try to do this on your own. And now I will begin doing this. So first thing you have to do is you have to distribute out the 5 and the 3 into what's in the parentheses. So you get negative 10x minus 20. And then just to be safe, you probably want to make that into a plus and then negative 3 just so you don't get confused with any of this. And then you can get net minus 12x minus 15 is equal to 97. So now what you want to do is you want to simplify. So you're going to add up all the like terms, which in this case would be 10x and 12x, or negative 10x and negative 12x, my bad. And you get negative 22x, and then the negative 20, and then negative 15, which add together to create negative 35. 97. And now you're going to use the good old ape and add 35 to both sides. 35. And those cancel out, and then you get 132. So now you have negative 22x is equal to 132. So you're going to divide by negative 22 on both sides, and you get x is equal to negative 6 after those cancel out. And that was the multiplication property of equality. So this is the solution to that big thing up there. So hopefully if you tried that one on your own, hopefully you got it correct. If you didn't, that's fine. We're going to be doing a little bit more practice, but it is going to get a little bit more complicated. So now we are going to move on to our last problem of this video. So this one is going to be the most complicated one, of course. So bear with me. If you want to try it out before I do it with everyone, that is fine. Feel free to. So 2/3 times 6c minus 18 plus 3/4 times 8c plus 32 is equal to negative 18. So this one's just a little bit more complicated because you have to deal with fractions now when distributing, but other than that, it's nothing that you guys can't handle. So first you want to distribute out the fractions in front of the polynomials first again. So 2/3 times 2/3 times 6, is equal to 4. So you have 4c. If you're wondering how I'm doing this in my head, I'm dividing this number, the coefficient, by 3, which is 2 times 2 is 4c. And then 2/3 times 18. 18 divided by 3 is 6 times 2 is 12. 12 plus 3/4 times 8c divided by 4, you get 2 times 3 is 6, 6c. 32 times 3/4 divided by 4, that's 8 times 3 is 24. Equals -18. So you're going to simplify again by adding the like terms. So you're going to get 10c plus 12 is equal to -18. Now this is something that we haven't encountered before, which is a positive number. But just think about using the addition property of equality, except by adding a negative number. So you're going to be adding a -12, which you can just think of as subtracting 12 from the side. But just while you're beginning, you might want to think of it that way. So you get -30 on this side, the 12s cancel out. So you get 10c is equal to -30. And now you divide by 10 on both sides, that cancels out, and you are left with c is equal to -3. So hopefully you learned a little bit of something about solving linear equations, and hopefully this helped in your understanding of this.